Hello, and welcome to TechTalk, where you'll hear the latest in technology and investment trends directly from the trendsetters. I'm your host, Janina Teoxon, member of EisnerAmper's Technology and Life Sciences practice. And with me today is Dr. Uli Chettipally, an award-winning physician, healthcare innovator, author, and entrepreneur. As the founder of Sirica Therapeutics, Dr. Chettipally is pioneering a new approach to autism by making therapy more engaging and effective through the use of technology. In this episode, we'll explore how digital therapeutics are reshaping autism treatment, the tech innovations driving a new category of therapy, and what it takes to build and fund a successful health tech startup. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to EisnerAmper wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also find us on YouTube at EisnerAmper. Dr. Chettipally, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Janina. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me.
Of course. Your background is impressive. You are both a physician and innovator, and that gives you a unique lens on healthcare transformation. And we're also seeing more of startups aiming to bridge the gap between clinical insight and scalable tech, especially in pediatric neurorehabilitation. So in a few sentences, Dr. Chettipally, could you share Sirica Therapeutics' core mission and what drew you to your focus on autism?
Sure. Great question. So I have a personal connection to autism. Number one, I have a daughter. Her name is Siri. She was diagnosed when she was 3. So all her life, I've been studying autism, trying to figure out solutions to it. And, Sirica Therapeutics is one solution that I came up with, mainly looking at how can we make life better for people affected by autism. When I say people affected, it is the individual that is affected, but also the family, the teachers, the school system, the society. So how can we make things better for everyone that is affected by it?
At EisnerAmper, we are creative problem solvers that take a 360-degree approach focusing on you. We're an award-winning firm with decades of experience providing accounting and advisory services. EisnerAmper, let's get you ready.
Right, that's very personal and such a powerful mission you have there, especially given how underserved this area can be. Dr. Chettipally, many of our clients in health tech are grappling with fragmented care pathways and limited access to effective neurorehabilitation. These gaps are especially pronounced for children with conditions like autism. What specific clinical or systemic challenge is Sirica Therapeutics laser-focused on solving?
Yes. Well, number one, autism is a huge issue. People may not know it, but it is growing at a rate of 8 to 10% every year. And so there are about 7 million people that are affected by autism. And we're trying to treat the most challenging conditions that present with autism, the symptoms, which is mainly the anxiety and the aggressive behavior, lack of sleep, regular sleep, and also lack of focus. And so those are the areas we're specifically targeting with Sirica Therapeutics, the way we have designed the application and the therapeutic system around that.
Right, and that's so important and such a critical gap. And I like how you explain it so clearly. The digital therapeutic space right now is growing quickly. And we know that differentiation is key. And investors and partners nowadays are increasingly asking, right? Like, what makes this solution stand out? So, Dr. Chettipally, how does Sirica's approach to neurorehabilitation differentiate itself from other players in the digital therapeutics?
Great question. So digital therapeutics, has been so far has been, defined as something that you do on a laptop, on a phone, on a computer, right? But what we are doing is we are connecting that digital world to the physical world. Now, when we use robotic exercise machines, that's where you connect the digital and the physical world. And so we are creating this complete solution that takes care of not only the sensory part, but also the motor part, which is very important in autism therapy.
Yeah, that's such a compelling angle, especially with your emphasis on connecting digital to the physical. And I can see that technology is clearly at the heart of your solution. And we are seeing actually a surge in AI-driven platforms and sensor-based therapies in rehab tech. So can you walk us through how Sirica is leveraging emerging technologies like AI, machine learning, and wearables to deliver outcomes that improve the quality of life for your young patients with autism?
Yes. So there are several technologies involved in our system. Number one is robotics. So the exercise machine is actually a robotic machine that tracks everything that the person does on that machine. It looks like a recumbent bicycle, but it's a lot more than that. The second technology we use is virtual reality. Now, the way we use virtual reality is to be able to provide specific input, sensory input, whether it is visual, whether it is sound, whether it is the tactile feeling. All of those are provided through this technology. The third technology we use is video gaming, and that's where the cognitive part comes in, where we challenge the individuals with a mental challenge and, of course, a physical challenge. And when you combine all these, that's when you get this effect of deep immersion. Now, of course, we use AI and machine learning to be able to fine-tune the treatment plan according to the patient's or the person's ability. And so it is very customized, and it is customized by these, the machine learning and AI technologies, where the plan is clearly laid out based on how well they are improving or how well they're doing on the program.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And that's so fascinating, especially how it blends clinical insight with these tech innovation. And I know it's more focused on autism. Does it also work on other like neurological challenges, for example, ADHD?
Yes. And so we call it autism and related disorders. So ADHD and those kinds of things also come into play. But, when you think about it, wherever there is a deficit in the brain connecting two parts of the brain, let's say stroke, let's say brain tumor that was removed and you have a deficit, it will work in those areas. The idea is when you stimulate the brain in a deeply immersive state, you are creating an environment for neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is where new nerve connections form in the brain, and thereby filling that gap, bridging that gap, and creating that new connection so that those deficits will decrease. And so that's the basic principle behind it.
Truly amazing. So let's talk about the patient experience, because it's always helpful, right, to ground innovation in the patient journey. And many of our healthcare clients at EisnerAmper are focused on improving the continuity of care and patient engagement. And also for many families too, continuity of care and engagement are just as important as the clinical results. So could you describe a typical patient scenario or family experience, what their experience looks like using Sirica's platform from diagnosis to improvement?
Yes. I mean, if you think about it, if you can create an experience where there is physical and mental challenge both together, you can talk about, maybe riding a horse or, swimming in the water or going to the gym. But those kinds of experiences are very hard for for people with autism because it's hard to motivate people unless they have intrinsic love for those activities. It is very hard to do that. So that's why the video gaming is very attractive because, in general, a lot of kids, they love video games, right? So that's what we are using to attract and improve their experience. We did a study on nine patients affected by autism to see how they will describe that experience. The feedback was excellent. Every one of them wanted to come back and do more. Now, it's hard for people to do that if you take them to the gym and make them exercise or sit them in a therapy session. Do you want to come back again? They will say no. And the satisfaction score was 9.3 average out of 10. So that's that high a satisfaction. That means they have to enjoy and be motivated to come back to do more. And when you talked about outcomes, some of the things that parents have said after one session was that, today my son was very calm. It was easy to manage with them. He did not have, triggers where he would go into a violent reaction to some of the triggers that may happen. And so that's only the initial, the focus group that we did. We know that can be sustained if you do it for longer term. And that's what we are planning to do, a clinical study for several weeks to see the positive effects of this treatment.
Oh, that's so good. And it makes the patient journey so alive, right? They for sure are enjoying all of those.
Imagine your kids wanting to go to therapy and do this every day. They'll be excited to go.
For sure. And it's so easy to imagine the difference it can make. Right. So let's talk about investor response, because pitching a digital therapeutics startup comes with its own set of challenges. And we hear that funders are increasingly looking for really a strong clinical validation and a clear path to scale. So what stage is Sirica currently in, and what's been the response from investors or grant funders when you present Sirica's model and mission?
Yeah, so we are still in the initial stages, pre-seed stage, but we raised enough money to be able to do our, not only get the license for the hardware and also be able to do the first clinical study looking at safety and feasibility. And we came out with flying colors. So we raised about $250,000 to be able to do that, to come to this stage. Right now, we are ready to enter the market, especially to be able to recruit patients to be able to do that study, and also get some beta users to use the machine and give us feedback as we fine-tune the program. And so we are raising $500,000 as a safe note from our pre-seed investors. So if any of your audience is interested, please contact me.
Well, that's good. That's exciting from the funding side. So let's talk about the role of advisors in your experience. So beyond capital, many startups we know rely on the right guidance to navigate complex challenges. We often see founders credit their success to an extent to trusted advisors who help shape strategy, open doors, and keep them grounded. How have advisors played a role in Sirica Therapeutics' journey so far, and what qualities make for an impactful advisor in your experience?
Yeah, an advisor is like a coach, for an athlete, right? You are the athlete as a founder because you are doing all the hard work. It takes somebody with a keen sense of being able to watch you and being able to track your progress and point to things that, you have a blind spot on. And that is very important because when I first started in entrepreneurship and innovation, what I did was I hosted meetings and I would invite the people that I thought would be great advisors, invite them to speak at my meetings. And that's how I got connected to great advisors. And being there with them, because they have seen many other companies and have a much better understanding of where you're going or where you're not going or where you're faltering, right? So they can alert you to the dangers. That's where I feel the value of advisors has been. And so I enjoyed that, or I had the privilege of having great advisors to warn me about pitfalls before they happen, because when they happen, it can be a disastrous, right? Especially in a young company, you don't want to make those mistakes that they have seen other people do. And so that's I feel that's a very valuable contribution to the startup.
Right. Yeah, I think we see the same thing with our clients at EisnerAmper. When startups have the right advisors in place, it can make all the difference in driving strategy and scaling successfully. So I agree. For startups and founders, advisors are very important. Now let's talk about the future, because many of our clients right now are in similar stages as yours, balancing growth with strategic capital allocation. So what do you see as the next major milestone or inflection point for your startup? And where do you think pediatric neurorehabilitation is headed in the next few years?
Yes. So one of the, for us, our next milestone is being able to set up a studio here in the San Francisco Bay Area and buy one machine and put it here and start having users test it and give us feedback, and also start recruiting for our next clinical study. So that's our next major milestone. For us, one of the things that helped us was these users giving us feedback. I think that's the most valuable thing for a startup. And some people think that, oh, you have to build the whole thing and then get feedback. But we believe that as you're building, getting feedback is important. Now, as far as pediatric, neurorehabilitation, it is a very challenging thing for pediatrics. Number one, because some of the investors feel that the market is not big enough, right? Oh, it's just kids. But what they forget is that kids, if they are living a normal lifespan, you have points where they will need your services for a much longer period. And so compared to, say, if you're building a product or a service for an 80-year-old person versus an 80-year-old person, right? So the duration of where you get exposure, you can make a difference in a much long-term fashion. And so your investment in pediatric care definitely lasts much longer, as far as impact is concerned. And that's what I feel is very important, because if that kid becomes productive, and that impact will have a longer term effect on the society.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. You invest in the early years, and that it'll benefit many years ahead, right? So to wrap up our conversation, Dr. Chettipally, I mean, you've made the leap from clinician to founder, a journey that is both for sure rewarding and challenging. And we often hear from early stage health tech innovators or early stage founders looking for guidance on how to bridge clinical expertise with startup execution. So what's that one piece of advice you'd offer to other health tech innovators or entrepreneurs who are just starting out?
Yes. One of the things that we early on I noticed is that when physicians, nurses, pharmacy people, when they see problems firsthand, because they are on the front lines of care, right? They are providing, this care, and they see problems firsthand. And they can come up with solutions because they see the problems themselves. And also they can they can create solutions where they're very practical because they know if that kind of solution exists, that they will use it themselves. So they have a very clear understanding of the problem and the solution. Where the domain people lack understanding is of the business world, maybe about the technology world, about strategy. So those are the gaps that need to be filled. And so one of my previous companies, Innovator MD, that provides that kind of advice, whether it is master classes, conferences, meetups. That's where you learn on how to do innovation, because there is a certain path that you have to follow. Otherwise, you might make some costly mistakes.
Right. And that's why it's important to have the right advisors working with you. Because, I think you said it right. You are seeing, or you're doing all the care for your patients, and you can come up with like practical solutions for those problems. But the business side of the innovation is something that probably you're going to need help on. Dr. Chettipally, thank you so much for taking the time to have a conversation with me today. I enjoyed it, learned so much. I think your solution is very promising, not just for young kids with autism, but like for kids that are neurodiverse.
Yes, it's much broader. Thank you, Janina, for having me, and thank you, Alina, and everybody else at EisnerAmper.
And for those who'd like to follow Sirica Therapeutics, what's the best way to connect with you?
Yes, the easiest way is LinkedIn. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. Just type in my name, Uli Chettipally, and it'll pop up. And there's not many Ulis, I'm guessing. And you have my contact information there.
Thanks again, Dr. Chettipally. And thanks to our listeners for tuning into Tech Talk, the entrepreneurs and innovators who turn to EisnerAmper for assurance, tax, advisory, and outsourcing solutions to help propel their business forward.